Well, good morning and happy Monday, everyone. Hope you had a wonderful weekend and enjoyed being in Worship Sunday. I also want you to be praying for me because this week I'm on study retreat. I do that about 3 times a year where I leave on Sunday afternoon, spend several days up to like Friday, occasionally Saturday on a retreat, just studying God's Word and about preaching, but also just praying and asking God for vision and direction for our future. And so it's kind of a study retreat, spiritual retreat, leadership retreat, all rolled into one. I appreciate your prayers for me while I'm away this week. Today we are in Genesis chapter 13. And what struck me in this chapter was the difference in disposition, in attitude, in the thinking, if you will, of Abram, who, his name later was changed to Abraham, but the difference in the disposition of Abram and his nephew Lot, 2 very different men, even though they were related to one another. As you read in chapter 13, both of them had flocks that had increased greatly. And where they were camping, if you will, the ground, the pasture was not enough to sustain or support the livestock that each of them owned. And because of that, there was a developing conflict between their herdsmen and I guess a little tension maybe between Abraham and Lot. And what really jumped out at me was Abraham. Abram was the one who went to Lot and initiated the conversation. Abram wanted a resolution, but he also wanted peace. And Abram allowed Lot to decide what area of the promised land he wanted to settle in, and then Abram would settle in the other part. And it was, and so he let Lot go first, and Lot did. But it's not just that; it's that Lot looked out there, and rather than trying to think about, well, what's good for all of us, Lot was only concerned about what was good for him. And so he wanted the lush pasture land of the Jordan River Valley to the east, and he went that way, and Abram agreed to it. And because I think in part, Abram had learned from his previous experiences that he could trust God to take care of him wherever he was. Lot had not developed that kind of attitude yet. And at the end of the chapter, what does Abram do? He builds an altar and worships God, whereas Lot is attracted to and moves to the city. And in verse 13, it says, the men of Sodom were wicked exceedingly and sinners against the Lord. Lot was attracted to the place where the people there were sinners against the Lord and exceedingly wicked. Abraham was trusting and worshiping God. 2 very different outlooks on life, 2 very different dispositions, ways of thinking and approaching decision-making as well as living. Now, neither of them were perfect. We saw in the previous chapter, Abraham, he did wrong down in Egypt. So he wasn't perfect, but man, he was nothing like Lot. 2 very different men. And I think there's a lot you and I can learn from Abraham. Because we're not perfect, far from it. But Abram was a man of God, and he trusted God, and he made decisions not from a purely personal, selfish perspective. And that's one of the hardest things for us as human beings to overcome, is the desire, the tendency, because of our fleshly nature, to make decisions on the basis of personal interest, selfish interest, not thinking about what is good for the whole, not even thinking about what is moving us toward godliness and Christ-likeness. We can learn from Abram about patience, we don't have to make decisions just on the basis of what is best for me or what I want. There's other ways to make good decisions that God honors and that God blesses. I just appreciate the way Abram handled this. And I want to encourage you and me, both of us, all of us, in 2025 to try to make our decisions more like Abram did and less like Lot. I think that will lead to a pretty good life. Hey, God bless you. Thank you for being part of this Bible reading plan and our devotions. And just one more reminder: if you haven't picked up your copy of the reading plan for 2025, do so at the church this Sunday. Hey, God bless you. I'll see you tomorrow as we look at Genesis chapter 14.